12:03 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. The program heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. Let's get things going right now with the host of the show and the executive director of the organization known as Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's none other than Kerry Fink. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thanks. It's always fun to be here on the radio at 12.
You know what to expect.
It's all good. Yeah, what was it they used to say back in New York City? Say broadcasting from high atop like Rockefeller Center. Well, here we're broadcasting high atop 90.3 FM, WEJF, and it is all well. And if you're listening online, we want to welcome you into our Wednesday lunchtime gathering at WEJF.net. People stream that. And then what we do every time that we complete a broadcast, we make sure we turn it around as quick as we can and we get it put out on podcast, because we recognize so many people these days like to go to Apple iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify or one of those and catch up with news and information that way. And a lot of times people tell us, like, they'll hear a broadcast and then say, oh, this is good information, and I know so-and-so needs to know that. You know, I go to church with them, they're always asking me about this or something like that. And so pass this information along. When you find the podcast, you say, hey, you know, they had a great show like the one we're going to have today with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson. Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Yeah, we're going to have because we're always like texting back and forth a little bit before. It's like, okay, Bill, what do you want to talk about this week? And so we're going to have legislative update, because I guess there's been a lot of stuff that's moving. And now, even though we talked earlier in the year about some of this stuff happening, now we know what has actually been signed and things like that. So we'll get into all that. But that's one of the reasons why programs like this are important on a podcast, because if there's something that pertains to you and maybe either you couldn't get all the information down right away, or you know somebody else in your family or circle of friends that would benefit from it, you can just say, hey, find this week's radio show. All you do is look for Helping Seniors Radio. Wherever you'll find a podcast, you'll find us there. And so for 15 years, that's been the mission of Helping Seniors as a 100% local to Brevard nonprofit. We are here to inform, educate, and connect seniors to resources. And hopefully, Bill, some of these legislative updates are going to be good resources for seniors. So where do we want to dive in on this?
I have a list. I've got 7 on my list, and all of them are currently law.
So that means that they went through the whole process, and then the governor actually signed or whatever happens, and then it becomes official, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the first one is Chapter 2026-57, and that deals with estates. And a lot of this bill came from a work group that the Florida Supreme Court put together to kind of help people out and make things a little easier. One of the things is they do now or have changed the way people can access safe deposit boxes.
Okay.
They made it a little easier to do that.
Yeah.
So that's helpful.
Yeah, no doubt.
They've also put in something that if the personal representative, that's Florida's word for executor, has to enforce their power, that they can get attorney's fees out of that.
Oh, okay.
They increased the amount of a summary administration from $75,000 to $150,000. Which is a benefit.
So that means that for smaller estates, it's easier to
do.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you do a summary if you have no creditors, too.
Okay.
They also made it easier for tax refunds. They upped the amount on tax refunds to $5,000 from $2,500. And if there's a surviving spouse, that amount can go right to the surviving spouse.
So it doesn't have to get tied up with everything else.
With the probate.
Right.
Exactly. And also, they increased the amount on small accounts. It used to be 1,000. Now it got increased to 2,000. What that means, if you have somebody that passes and you're a certain category of person, like the spouse, adult child, that kind of thing, you can go to the bank and with an affidavit, you can get the money.
So it doesn't really have to go through the whole official probate process.
Correct. Which drives us attorneys who do this crazy because, nothing's worse than having to probate a $1,500 account.
Yeah, I've heard, I think I heard this story. I was telling you as we were getting together that last week I had the privilege of being over in Orlando for the Florida State Guardianship Association conversation. And I remembered that one of the conversations was exactly that somebody had $1,200 or something, and it wasn't even worth it to try to figure out how to legally make that happen.
And by the time you hire the attorney, pay the filing fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and there's a few more things in here, more technical things, so we'll kind of gloss over that.
Right, but the basic premise is, so this is talking about, when we say estate, this is somebody has now passed away, and this is trying to make it easier for the person who's in charge of the estate to try to
whoever
make sure.
the survivors are, to get in the safe deposit box, to get at a small account, to get a tax refund, or even to do a summary administration.
Yeah, although you and I have done whole radio shows where we've talked about the fact that in an ideal world, if you've done your planning, you maybe don't really have to go through the probate process. So this is really applicable to people that maybe didn't do their planning the way they should, or it's small enough that this just kind of makes it happen instead of just getting gummed up.
Correct.
Am I saying that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, good. Well, that seems like progress.
Yeah, it does. I think all of those things are good.
Yeah.
The next bill we have is one that was signed by the governor. It's about curators. For those of you who don't know what a curator is,
I don't.
It's imagine somebody opens up a probate and then somebody files suit and they're tied up in suit. And especially if it's about who is going to be the personal representative. The court can appoint a curator. So they continue to administer the estate while the other litigation's going on.
So this might be the case where somebody says, no, Mom wanted me to be the executor, and somebody else says, no, Mom wanted me to be the executor, and they're fussing, but still the state has to somehow keep moving.
Yeah, because, there may be bills that are accruing, and we need to get the assets together to, preserve them, and then, distribute it. And so the whole process doesn't have to grind to a halt.
Right.
So, and that's really what that bill was about. Hopefully you never have to know anything about that.
Well, that I guess that's a common theme that we've talked about on so many radio shows, right? Is this is one of the reasons why Joe always called it the aging plan. We call it getting your ducks in a row. But if you do this all ahead of time, then it makes the roadmap really clear, and then you're not really necessarily going to find, it's a lot more in black and white. So if somebody is saying, hey, no, it's supposed to be this way, they have a much higher hurdle. Like I remember, my favorite story is the Aretha Franklin story where they're finding wills behind couches and all kinds of stuff. And that had to be a nightmare, in those kind of cases for people to sort all that stuff out.
The next one is Chapter 2026-162, and that deals with homestead exemptions. And now, if you are the owner of a long lease on a piece of property that you're living on, obviously, you can get a homestead exemption. It has to be a lease of 50 years or more.
Wow. Now, is that common in Florida? Because I remember the first time
It's not really that common, no.
The first time I ever heard of something like that was actually out in Texas, where they said they had a 100-year lease on the piece of property. And I thought, wow, that's good in our lifetime, but someplace, whatever 100 years from now, calculated out to be from that point, what do you do? You know, it seems complicated.
The first time I heard about it was the British had the lease on Hong Kong for 99 years.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
So there are long-term leases like that.
Yeah.
Not quite sure why you would do it, and why not just purchase the property.
I guess because someplace way down the line, your heirs get it back. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, or, the people don't want to sell, and you need the property pretty badly.
Yeah.
The next one regards trusts. It's Chapter 2026-54. And it provides a procedure where trustees can get discharged of their duties, which protects them from liability down the road. So if they follow all these procedures, they do an accounting, show where the money went, and send it out to the beneficiaries, after a period of time, they can no longer be liable for anything.
So this would be like in the case of somebody who is probably running a trust on behalf of somebody else.
Yeah, if somebody's died, we have a trustee who's gathering the assets, paying the debts, and then is going to distribute. They go through this procedure.
Right.
Send it to all the beneficiaries. And then the beneficiaries, after a period of time, cannot come back against the trustee.
Okay.
Generally, it is 60 days after receipt of the trust disclosure document.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good one. Because otherwise, they're, could be on the hook forever.
Well, I was
or at least probably 4 years.
Well, again, I was thinking about this because this is all very fresh on my mind since I was in Orlando last week, as we were talking about for the Guardianship Association, because they kind of have that same role where they're responsible, and it doesn't seem like it actually stops unless the court says it stops.
Correct.
Wow.
We have another one that deals with virtual currency kiosks. This one takes some explaining.
Is this the Scam Jam one?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's happening is there are all kinds of virtual currency, think Bitcoin and all those things.
Right.
And now they've set up these ATM-looking like machines.
Yep.
Where you can send, from your wallet, is what they call it, where you store it, to the machine and take out money. You can also deposit money to a wallet. And what is happening is, because all that's untraceable, scammers are seizing on that.
Yep.
And getting people, people with limited capacity, convincing them they need to go to these kiosks, which are usually, like at a gas station, and deposit the money that they're being scammed out of into the machine. Sometimes $10,000-$20,000.
Yes.
So the senior is being scammed. They go to the bank, get this out in cash.
Yep.
Go to the gas station and sit there and put the bills in.
Yep.
And then it goes off into somebody's Bitcoin somewhere. And there's no trace. You can't follow it. And generally, it is just totally dangerous.
Yeah.
A lot of these machines are in bad parts of town, and you have the seniors showing up with 10, 20 grand in their pocket.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we had this bill come up last year, and it didn't pass, but this year it did. So what they've done, and by the way, I had heard of these. I think I've seen a couple in South Florida, but I just Googled virtual currency kiosks by me, and up in the Suntree area, there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're going to make some rules regulating them.
Good.
They are also limiting the amount of money that can be transacted through it.
Good.
Yeah, so that you cannot deposit on your first visit, especially, you can't deposit or withdraw more than a certain amount. And then if you're a repeat user, this is the way you transact business or something, it goes up. But they put caps on what you can and cannot do with those machines. Also, they put in place registration for all the machines. And they also have penalties. So, if the company doesn't follow what they're supposed to be doing, they can be in trouble with the regulating body. So
this seems so important because, as you know, Bill, we were again talking just before the show. I said probably the number one thing that piques seniors' interest whenever we announce the next chapter is the Scam Jam program that we've been doing. In fact, we've got one coming up Friday, which is for all practical purposes sold out. I think there's 90 plus RSVPs for 75 seats, and we're doing a Scam Jam AI edition. But what I wanted to say about the last one that we had done, where we had actually our state attorney, Will Shiner, had come in, and he had shared when we were doing this in May over at the Brennedy in Melbourne to again, a full house crowd. And he was talking about this very bill, believing that it was going to come to fruition, because he said, in the old days, they would tell, go down to Walmart and buy a bunch of gift cards, and that's how you're going to, and then call back and read the numbers, and that's how they would scam you for the money. But now this is the Wild West of ATMs, right? And so they say, just come down. And then what he was explaining from I guess a prosecutorial kind of point of view, because that money moves offshore so quick, there's very little chance to A, retrieve it, or B, stop it,
or even follow.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't even follow the money trail.
And again, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. If somebody is already not sure, and they're already, there's a thing AARP has been talking about on the scams, which we repeat a lot, is cause pause, reflect, and protect. They say, anytime a scammer is after you, they're always trying to get you to do something in a hurry, right?
Correct.
So even when you're talking about this bill, where it's going to limit what you could do that first transaction, that's maybe going to help that pause thing. Because a lot of times what happens is, I guess the scammer just says, well, if you don't do this right now, your son's sitting in jail, and whatever the scam happens to be. So they're trying to get you to just not think. So if they can get you to stop and then reflect for a minute and say, what's really going on here? So maybe this is going to be...
And ask somebody else.
Right.
Is this legit, not legit?
This doesn't sound right. To me, it would be so obvious the IRS is not going to call you and say you can settle your bill with gift cards. But, how many people have we read stories where that I guess they were just so afraid.
And I think what's happened is that the stores have now trained their staff to identify that scam. So they don't have ready access to that anymore.
Yeah, we've had this conversation. Jackie Erickson, who is at PNC Bank, she's the vice president, branch manager for the one over in Palm Bay, and she's the one that actually helps us with our Helping Seniors Bank accounts, but she volunteers her time to come out to the scam jams, and she says so often, they have so much training that without being intrusive, if somebody's coming in with a very odd request, they can ask a few questions and hopefully get that person to think about what's really happening here so they don't make, that kind of a mistake. So, it seems like the scammers, now that they figure out the banks and even the gift card, because I've heard stories where somebody, see somebody come up to the cash register with dozens of gift cards and say, is this really what you're trying to do here? And then the person will go, well, no, I got to send this because, and then there'll be a conversation. But with these crypto ATMs, it's a whole wild, wild west because there's nobody to stop it. So it seems like very good legislation, I would think.
And down in South Florida, there are people who are just waiting outside these gas stations to rob people.
Yeah.
Because they know
that
people are going to show up with all this cash.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, the first line defense in a lot of the scams is the bank teller.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was explaining. So Jackie, when we do a kind of a regular scam jam, she'll come out and she'll present a thing about basically keeping your identity, so because that's, if the scammers can figure out how to get a hold of your bank stuff and things like that, then, they can just go to town. And it's really complicated. The conversations we've had, I said, and she's on the front line. There was a story. It's a little bit afield from what we're talking about here, but it was an employment scam where, a company overseas hired somebody work at home. They sent them a check for like $3,000 because you got to go buy the computer and then we'll get you set up. Person deposits the check, then goes and pays, whoever they bought the computer from. And of course, the check from Germany is no good. And now this lady has kited a bad check. And she was literally relating the story about the problem is, since it was your bank account, you're still responsible, even if the people who kind of coerced you to do this, or the reason behind it. And so she was talking about in that case, she felt so bad for the lady because the lady, was thinking she was getting a job, but she was getting robbed instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Unbelievable.
There's a sheriff over on the west coast of Florida, and they have set up a hotline.
Yep.
And you can just call that hotline if you suspect something may be afoul, and they will walk you through whether or not they think it's a legitimate thing.
Wow. Well, it's so important because, like I said, of the different things that we do, every time we announce a scam jam, it's always oversubscribed because everybody is wanting to try to be sure that they're staying one step ahead. In fact, the event that we're having on Friday, it's over at Zahn, and they're literally, AARP is flying in like their top guy. His name is Daryl Greer, and he's with a division of AARP called Senior Planet, which is part of what they have a division called Older Adults Technology Services or Older Americans Technology. Anyway, it's the division that tries to keep up with it, but because they're seeing so much going on with AI right now, too. Friday's session is going to be actually looking at AI. And it was funny because I was having this conversation with Daryl, and I was just saying, like, we just want to keep our seniors safe. He said, Kerry, he said, that's important. He said, but I don't want seniors to walk around and be afraid of AI either. He said, because it's like everything else. So he goes, let's call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's make sure they know the ugly part of it so they don't get into that. And then he said, but let's make sure that they know that there's a lot of positive stuff that's going to come that way. So everything we're talking about in this legislation about protecting seniors from scams is so important. We're talking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson, longtime friend helping seniors and the head of William A. Johnson Law Firm there in the Suntree area. Bill, we talked about we were just the Boomer Guide just came out. You have your long-term care book, great answers and things like that. It's also on your website, floridaelderlaw.net. You do all kinds of educational programs. I just want to make sure before we get to the mid-show break, if people have questions or they want to reach you about things that they have going on where your law office could help them, how would they do that? Or maybe they just want to find out about the next and because you do all those training seminars over at like One Senior Place and stuff too.
Yeah, they could call the office at 321-253-1667.
Yeah, and again, great website, FloridaElderLaw.net, because you can get that. You can get the PDF of that book right there too, right?
You can.
So all this good information. We're going to come back on the second half of the show. We are going to talk more about some of these legislative updates, and so stay right here with us on 90.3 FM WEJF. We'll be right back.
12:33 right now in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get back to more of the show with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Thank you, John Harper. Always good to continue the lunchtime conversation. We're having a good one with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of William A. Johnson, PA, and we are talking about legislative updates. Before we jump right back in, I want to give you a second to grab maybe something to jot some notes down. I want to share just a couple of events that are coming up next week and the week after so that you can get these on your calendar, and then we'll save a minute or two here at the end of the show because I want to make sure you get the October 25th date for our Helping Seniors car raffle onto your calendar. But for right now, I want to talk about some fun things that are coming up literally next week. So next Thursday, meaning a week from tomorrow, we get to do a program called Nourish Your Spirit Cooking Class. And this is with our good friend Chef Jillian of Chefs for Seniors. And her, together with Ellen Jones of Senior Helpers of Melbourne, they put on a great show and a great tasting show. It happens from 11 to 12:30. It's absolutely free. It's at our offices, the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. We're there on the second floor right there in Melbourne, Florida. And what happens there is that she puts together a cooking show to show you how simple it is to cook nourishing meals. And she does it without having like a chef's kitchen. She literally sets up a folding table, maybe sticks a hot, what do you call it, a burner out there, and maybe a blender or something like that. And she shows you how easy and inexpensive it is to make the kind of food that your doctor is always telling you that we're supposed to be eating. And in fact, this month, her topic is the month of wellness and immunity building recipes. And so the cool thing about Chef Jillian is not only are these recipes easy to work with, they are also extremely tasty, because that's the point. She shows you how to make them, and then we all get to taste them. So if you can, you want to be with us next Thursday, a week from Thursday, not tomorrow, a week from Thursday, at the Senior Resource Center. And we ask that you RSVP because she's got to know how many mouths to feed. So you got to give us a call at 321-473-7770. Now, that same week on the Friday, I want to remind you, every second Friday, we're out at Merritt Square Mall, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We do the AARP Walk with a Doc, and that's a great opportunity to get out there and do the other thing. The doctor tells you to eat healthy, but the other thing the doctor tells you to do is move more. And there we are in the climate-controlled Merritt Square Mall, and we have the run of the mall, or in this case, the walk of the mall, and we just have a great time. Lydia Rivera, who's an ARMP, she donates her time, comes all the way over from Orlando to lead this, and it is so much fun. It's like a social club that ends up with some good medical benefits, too, by walking around and having fun. It's free, 9 to 10, Merritt Square Mall. That same day, Friday the 14th, make sure you're back at the Senior Resource Center, because our second Friday Senior Tech Talk series continues with our instructor, Bree Prentice, and we will be continuing to make sure that you're, what do they call it these days? They call it a good, solid digital navigator. So some stuff that's coming up next week, and I'm also going to give you a couple of dates for the following week, because there is just all kinds of stuff going on in August. Every third Wednesday, we get together with a good friend of ours. His name is Joe Downs. He is with the Brevard County Sheriff's Department. He works with Sheriff Ivy. We call it Coffee with a Cop, or more specifically, because it's Joe, we call it Java with Joe. And what we love about this opportunity is we have the favorite cop food. We have Dunkin' Donuts and coffee, and then we get to learn a little bit about the stuff that the sheriff's office does to help our seniors maximize their safety and quality of life in our county. And then the same day, we do a program called Trash or Treasure at the Resource Center. If you've ever seen one of these things that's like what do they call it, the traveling road show that they would have on like public television. This is kind of the same thing. We have a gentleman named Peter Indorf, and he's a jeweler designer by trade, but kind of expert all things about this, and he brings some of his expert coin collector friends and stamp collector friends and things like that, and by appointment, they will look through all that stuff you probably have sitting in the drawer going, is it trash or is it treasure? And they will help you kind of sort that out. So if you're interested in participating in that, again, that is by appointment. It's next Wednesday, so you'll call us 321-473-7770. I'll say the number again, 321-473-7770, and then you can decide if you want to get an appointment and come in. All this stuff is free, and it's just really for your information. So lots of good things going on at the Senior Resource Center. And now let's get back into the conversation. We covered a number of the different legislative updates, and I guess we were saying at the first half of the show, these are now law because they have been duly presided over by the governor. I don't know if that means he signs them or how that works, but these are now laws, right?
Yeah, all of these have been signed by the governor.
Yeah.
So the next one on my list is Chapter 2026-102, and this is a bill that seeks to define and license what memory care is.
Ah.
As you know, Kerry, for years, it can mean anything. It could mean that your facility has a wing that has doors that lock.
Yeah.
And other places, they have all kinds of things like painting, activities, and it just varies so much between facility to facility.
Yeah.
And when people come in, I ask them, well, where's your loved one? Are they in a nursing home, assisted living? Are they at home? And people go, they're in memory care.
But what does that mean?
And I go, that doesn't mean anything. There's no definition of memory care. So, I mean, you could have memory care at home in assisted living or in a nursing home.
Yeah.
So now they've finally gotten around that they are going to make this bill's predominantly assisted livings, but they would have to go get an additional license to provide memory care services. They're going to work on rules governing what memory care is and what you should do. They impose penalties and things like that if you obviously don't follow the rules. But this is probably should have been done years ago.
I'm actually shocked, Bill, because I just assumed it had. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that.
That's why when you go from, like I said, facility to facility, the services offered vary widely.
You know, early on, as you know, our very first Senior Resource Center was co-located with Zon Beachside because that was the very first one, and we were there until COVID made that not possible. It was a great location, but I do remember Joe talking with Greg Kennedy, who is the head guy behind all of that, and he was sharing with Joe at the time that he had really the vision to make the whole location perfect for seniors. He said, you know, his long-range goal, which he's now achieved, was to have the residences, they call it the residences at Zon, so that's like independent living.
Right.
But originally they started with assisted living, and then specifically he wanted to be a leader in just what you're talking about, memory care, and so they have they have a whole special. And so those are people, I guess I would say, well, you know, at least in my opinion, we're doing it right. But then when you think about it, you know, most of the time, if you talk to somebody, say, you know, mom or dad or aunt or uncle, they're in the old folks home. We don't even know the difference between assisted living and all those. And I had just assumed that memory care had like some sort of a legal definition. Wow, it does not. In the state of Florida, of all places.
It does not. And people use that term in all their marketing material.
Right.
And up until now, there has been no real definition.
So for the people who do this well, this should be a very welcome change because it kind of keeps the people saying, oh, we do memory care. What does that mean? We'll look at grandma more often?
Yeah, I've been to places where all it meant was the doors lock.
Wow.
You know, that they can't elope.
Yeah, right. Wow, incredible. You would have thought Florida would have had that from like day one. So amazing that comes to pass in 2026. Wow.
And the last bill I have, which is now Chapter 2026-74, this is a bill that kind of shook up what the area agencies on aging do. For those of you who don't know, the area agency on aging are located in different regions around the state.
Right.
And I can't remember the name of the one.
We're in Orlando, which is called the Senior Resource Alliance.
That's it.
And they're the ones, you know, as I'm not an expert in this, but they're the ones who, for example, make the work of Aging Matters be possible. Because basically, as I follow it, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's kind of like the Florida Department of Elder Affairs works through these agencies who then work with local providers like Aging Matters, who does Meals on Wheels, or Brevard Alzheimer's, who does transportation, has the Joe's Clubs and things that we're fond of and things like that. But all that kind of flows through those agencies, right?
Correct. And for those of you who don't know anything about Medicaid, if you're applying for Medicaid services at home or in an assisted living, you have to actually call into the Senior Resource Alliance.
Oh.
And then they will set up an appointment.
Wow.
And then based on how the appointment goes, they'll determine whether or not you're eligible.
Wow.
And then they will put you on a wait list.
Right.
For those services. And then when you get called off, you have to do your income asset eligibility with the Department of Children and Families. But they are the ones who put people on the wait list. So that has changed.
Oh.
It is now called the pre-enrollment list.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess they
don't like wait list.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to dinner, they don't want to tell you, it's a wait list, so we'll have you pre-enrolled for dinner.
Because what they do, it's been in the media, and people have reported how many people are on the quote-unquote wait list.
Right.
So now it's the pre-enrollment list. But they also moved several programs over there to determine people for those programs. And that includes the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative, Community Care for the Elderly, and, of course, the one I talked about, the statewide Medicaid Managed Care Long-Term Care Program.
Right.
So they've kind of expanded what they've done. They've renamed some of the things. There's a little bit more into the law, and most of it deals with how they contract with people and things like that. But that is the main gist, is like if you're applying for at least the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative or Community Care for the Elderly, now you have to go and be put on the pre-enrollment list.
Gotcha.
So it used to be one of our workarounds is that we knew Aging Matters had Community Care for the Elderly.
Yeah.
So if we couldn't get anything through Medicaid right away, we would send people there while there was money.
Right.
It's always been underfunded.
Yes.
But in the hope that maybe they could get
some help
quicker.
Right.
Yeah. Now that's all been governed by the wait list.
Push back into that. Not wait list anymore, the pre-enrollment list. Now, I got a question, because you and I have done a lot of radio shows where we've talked about people don't even realize, because most people don't plan ahead, so they don't even realize they need to be thinking about this stuff in advance. So you and I spend time talking about the fact that you'll help families do Medicaid planning, sometimes VA aid and attendance, because, people have these ideas that, well, it's okay. The kids are going to get the house anyway. So if I have to go into, assisted living or something like that, or a skilled nursing facility, I'll just deed the house over to the kids, and it causes all kinds of problems because then you're ineligible.
Correct.
Because of lookbacks and stuff like that.
Correct.
Does any of that law impact any of the strategy that, people have to think about when it comes to those kind of things?
Well, I always tell people to hold on to their long-term care insurance.
Right.
Because, if you have to get services at your house through Medicaid, you got to go through this pre-enrollment list.
Oh, wow.
And you could be waiting for quite a while.
Yeah.
Whereas, a lot of people, they've jacked up the premium on the long-term care insurance.
Right.
But if you keep it, you can always have a lower premium if you get less service. And so at least keeping it for the fact that it may pay for somebody to come to your house and allow you to stay home. Is a good idea.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I guess that was another question, because I remember you and Joe talking like years ago. You got to realize we've been at Helping Seniors now 15 years. And I remember in the early days when you and Joe would have these conversations, Joe was always consternated, I guess would be the right word, about that. He said, Bill, we have this list of 60,000 people on this now, the pre-enrollment list. And it hasn't changed much, has it?
It has not. They keep playing games, so they don't call it a wait list now. Now it's a pre-enrollment list.
Right.
When you would call the Senior Resource Allowance, they would rate you 1 through 5.
Right.
And you would go on that list.
Right.
5 being the most needy, 1's the least needy. So they would order the list in priority. Then a few years ago, they decided they weren't going to put 1s and 2s on the list.
Oh, so we're just going to cut it down to 3, 4, 5s.
Correct. And then they could say, our wait list isn't that long. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So they keep playing games because they know it's a bad image.
Yeah.
So, it's not the wait list now. It's the pre-enrollment list.
Wow.
They only put basically 60% of the people on the list. So there are a variety of ways they're trying to buffer against being brought out in public.
Well, this goes back to something we talk about so often. Like I said, Joe called it an aging plan. We call it getting your ducks in a row. But there's 7 big areas that we ask people to think about. And literally one is very much up at the top of the list. It's actually number 2. We just say number 1 is health and wellness, but literally the second one is legal, because you need to know these things, because I think I've heard you say it more than once. If you don't have a plan, it's okay. The government has a plan. It's just probably not
what you
not what you would want to have happen. And so your best hope to kind of have some good outcomes is to plan ahead. But then we always say, don't try this on your own. You got to talk to somebody who does this day in, day out. It's not their first rodeo. They know, they know all the hoops they have to be jumped through, and they know how to jump you through them the right way. Because we've talked about people who will try to do their own paperwork for this, and then it gets rejected, and then they, or they do these crazy things like, I'm just going to take money out of the bank and give it to my son, so then I'm poor and I'm qualified for Medicaid, and it does not work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
So one of the most important things I think that Joe embarked for us was this idea that we got to get everybody more educated about things that they do need to know about before it becomes a crisis. There's always ways to deal with things. Guardianship is a way to deal with things. It's not a good way to deal with things, maybe because it's so costly and gets courts involved. And we've talked about the same with probate. It's costly. It gets courts involved. And there's so many better ways to do this if you just get ahead of the curve. And that's why, Bill, I kind of want to close out the chapter and still leave a minute to talk about the car raffle. But I want to make sure people know, because you do a lot of these education seminars where, you can start there, get a little bit more into the
Knowledge,
into the what you need to know, and then from there say, okay, now I'm ready. I want to do this, because as we've talked about a lot of times, this legal stuff, it doesn't save you like small money, but if you pay now, it's small money compared to the tens or maybe even hundreds of thousands if you did it the wrong way, or worse yet, tried to do it yourself and made a boo boo.
You're correct.
So how do people find?
Hold on.
Yeah,
I got one more thing. Well, we got a few minutes.
Go.
The 900-pound gorilla in the room, obviously, is the bill to change the homestead exemption.
Yes, I've heard about that. Where is all that?
As of right now, a judge has stricken the language that the legislator want to put as an introduction, because it was basically an advertisement to vote for it.
Yeah.
And I just read that the Florida Association of Police Officers, Florida Association of Firefighters, and the Florida Sheriff's Association have all come out opposed.
Yeah.
And I saw a little blurb that, local governments would take a huge hit. Yeah. Services would kind of stop. And, the fallback position from the governor was that the legislature would then, give grants to counties. Well, that gives up all your local control. You have no local it's all going to be out of Tallahassee. So me personally, I don't think it's a very good idea to give the people in Tallahassee that much control.
I've heard this has been talked about a lot, because I sit on the group called the Brevard Commission on Aging, which is an offshoot, very kind of off to the side offshoot, but it is part of or authorized, I guess is the right way to say it, by the Brevard County Commissioners. And some of the people who are staff people have mentioned that this would really be like harmful for the services the county tries to provide.
The thing I saw online today was they estimate Brevard County would lose like $43 billion off the first phase.
Wow.
And then yearly. Yeah. And then the second phase, $63 billion. And those are numbers you just can't make up. You can cut and slash and try to do things, but that's going to decimate county services.
Wow, well, that's a good one for us to keep an eye on, Bill, as we go down the road.
And the whole idea about going to the legislature, they don't have any plan on that yet, how that would even work. So
shoot first, ask questions later. Well, we'll see. That's one we should definitely stay up on. So, but Bill, just to kind of close it out, if people want to figure out when you're doing these sessions, these free seminars that you do up at One Senior Place, or get more information, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just call the office at 321-253-1667.
Or visit FloridaElderLaw.net, because you've got some real good information there. So we're going to turn our attention just for a moment to make sure. I want to just drumbeat this in as much as I can. October 25th is the Helping Seniors 10th Annual Car Raffle. It's hard to imagine that we've arrived at 10 car giveaways in the lifetime of Helping Seniors, and here we are. And it's the same choices as last year, because the cars come from AJ Hires, Boniface Hires family of dealerships, and he's got one of everything really just about that matters. He's got the Chevrolet, he's got Mazda, he's got Kia, he's got Mitsubishi, Dodge, he's got Jeep. So there's so many great cars. I probably left one out. But there's 7 cars that you can pick from, anything from a Chevy Colorado truck to a Mazda Miata Sporty convertible to a something like a Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a cool little SUV. It all happens on Sunday, October 25th. We call it Sunday at the Museum, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. At the American Muscle Car Museum, we do a drawing. It's a fun day out at the museum. And then at the end of the day, we'll pull a ticket, and that person goes home with a brand new car. And that's the way it is. But you've got to be in it to win it. So how do you do that? You donate for a ticket. You don't have to be present to win, by the way. But each ticket is admit one. So when you get a ticket, you're welcome to come out, enjoy all the fun at the museum. We will talk more about all the fun that's coming up. There's some great stuff there. But if you get a ticket, one is $25 donation. Everything else in life has gone up, Bill, but we still are following $25 gets you a ticket in the car raffle. And so 5 tickets is a $100 donation, which many people do because then that increases their chance 5-fold. But it also means that they can bring 4 friends with them when they come out to the museum event, and that's included with your ticket. So you get a ticket. There's a couple ways to do it. You can go to helpingseniors.carraffle.com. You can call us at 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770. But make sure you get your tickets today, helpingseniors.carraffle.com. That's the time we have for our radio show today, and we will see you right back next week. We'll be here at 12 noon with our good friend, Dr. Lee Sheldon, and he's got some interesting stuff to share with us next week right here.
Thank you, Kerry Fink. You've been listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. Kerry Fink is the host. Kerry is also the executive director of our organization. Be sure to make it a point, as we call it, appointment radio, to listen again next week, 12 noon to 1 o'clock, right here on 90.3 FM.